Okay, hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm going to be talking a little quieter than I have in the past because my mom is taking a nap in the room nearby, so I'm trying not to be too loud. But she's been asleep for a while, so yes, welcome back. I am live streaming the finale of the ambassador route for Errant Kingdom, so we're almost done. 3 more streams, this one and then 2 after that. Maybe another one to go through the extras a bit. But last time we were at the winter ball at Aldurin, and while there, well, actually the previous 2 chapters, because the ball was so long they had to split it into 2. And while we were there, Amaja's brother attempted to kill us while possessed by Nova. So that means that the ambassador and the knight can't return to the castle, and the nomad isn't exactly safe in the city of Novus. So, what's the plan? What's going to happen? We'll find out. And I did re-record the night route, but my audio was so quiet that I'm going to re-record it again. I just haven't gotten that far yet. Hopefully tomorrow. I needed a few days. Anyway, the finale. My sleep is deep and dreamless, and I feel like I could sleep for another day at least as I rise and begin to reassemble all my things for the journey back to Novus. There's a part of me that dreads leaving Aldurin. There's a sense of safety here that I know I won't be afforded once I return. Assassination attempt notwithstanding, of course. Handmaidens and pages busy the hallways as they load up the belongings of the nobility inside. The duchesses watch at the entrance of the palace and bid their goodbyes to those who pass, giving special attention to Eric, Elizabeth pinching his cheeks with a fond smile. They see the triplets ahead as well, taking up the space of their own private coach. They keep to themselves, but as I make eye contact with Callisto, I can see there's an air of calm about her that wasn't there previously. She finally shared the information that she'd been sitting on for who knows how long. They got it to someone that they thought they could trust to do the right thing with it. I bow my head as I approach the duchesses. It has been a delight to attend the ball this year, your graces. Their smiles are bright and genuine. You are welcome back any time, dear Ambassador Kadir. It's been too long since we had such an interesting guest of honor. I'm sure they took note of the ambassador running about doing errands for the triplets, along with everyone else. We look forward to what you accomplish in your time in Novus. Their words strike a chord in me. It's probably just coincidence, but since last night I feel on edge. Whatever's been building up since I arrived in Novus is about to come to a head. I wonder if other people can feel it like I can. Time comes to leave, and Cedric squeezes me into a coach with Maja, Lucian, and Livia. He leans in close before he closes the door. I'll be keeping up with you on horseback. He'd made it explicitly clear as I went to bed that I wouldn't be leaving his line of sight unless necessary. I don't think he gave my travel companions much of a choice. They're the only ones with the official envoy either of us actually trusts. The journey is long, but somehow too quick. The closer we draw to Novus, the more my anxiety grows. Going back to the castle after rebuking the Queen and King as well as Novus is like walking through the front doors of hell. Before leaving, we'd arranged that I would slip out of the carriage at the next rest stop. Raiden and Eric would be waiting for me, and I'd stay with Eric in his little cottage in the woods. It's secluded enough for me to stay hidden fairly well, but people would be able to get to me if needed. Lucian watches the way my hands fidget with an amused grin on their face, a dark brow arched high. This only serves to make my nerves worse. Maja has had her nose in the small red boat the majority of the ride, making small noises to herself at anything she finds interesting, A magic quill sitting next to her takes notes as she flips the pages. I wonder, is this the quill that the ambassador gave Maja? I forget which chapter it was. I think it was after the jousting tournament. So, technically chapter 2, because the very first chapter was a prologue. So, I don't know if the devs had that in mind, but, just a thought. Livia, for her part, seems happier than she'd been in the last few days, her hands gliding over the pommel of her sword. Her hand goes back to it every few minutes or so, as a way to see if it's still there after not being able to keep it on her person. I mean, I don't blame Livia. When you're used to having it there and then it's not there, you want to reassure yourself that you have it after being without it. Normally I find carriage rides to be far more peaceful when those inside were quiet, but now the silence makes my skin crawl. Finally, as if she sensed my mounting discomfort, Masha closes the little book with a snap and huffs. I think it's time that we come up with a plan. A sigh of relief escapes me and I can feel my shoulders lose the tension that had been building in them. Plans are good. I like plans. I pause. What exactly is this plan for? Masha opens the book and flips to a page in the middle, tapping the paragraph with a delicate finger. Well, based on the information the Marquise triplets gave you, as well as what's written in this book, it's clear that we're going to have to find something hidden deep within the castle, potentially in the archives, but more likely in the throne room. Close as if we're looking for a weapon. Wouldn't that be in the armory? Olivia crinkles her nose. I doubt there's anything of use there. The armory is primarily used for swords, bows, spears for the infantry, and basic armor. Nothing that would hold tremendous power. She waves her hands to accentuate the last couple of words, a look of doubt on her face. Callisto mentioned that the weapon would be old. Olivia shrugs. Some things in there are old, yes, but those are the rusted practice swords that are close to breaking. Trust me, if there was something of value in there, I would know. Not even the Queen and King keep their battle armor in there. That's why I believe the throne room is our best bet. Olivia's eyes narrow and she crosses her arms. Right, and you plan to get it to it unnoticed? It's arguably the most guarded place in the castle beside the royal bedchambers. Oh, well, that's great. I'm sure you and I could take care of the less physical wards and spells that hang around the place, Maja. I glance over at the demon. You're going to help? They grin, a flash of sharp teeth peeking through their human glamour. Your mission is terribly important, Ambassador. Oh, great. They sound like they're teasing me, but there's a serious undertone in their voice. It fades quickly. I also need something to do. Okay. Something to distract you. We can handle that. Right. When we run into a slight issue... Slight? Okay, I'm gonna turn the music up just a tiny bit. Hopefully it's not too loud. It's getting past the guards and also through the set of locked doors. They must be unlocked with two separate pieces that combine to form one. I can help with the guards, send them to a different post maybe, and I have one half of the key. She reaches into a pocket and pulls out a plain-looking key tied to a red ribbon. The Knight Commander is ordered to keep this with them at all times. The Queen keeps the other in her chambers, I'm afraid. I'm not sure she'd give it up lightly, or at all. The doors can't be unlocked magically? Masha and Olivia both shake their heads. Security precaution. Can't make it too easy for mages or regular humans. Fair enough. I think I'll be able to handle the other key in the doors, though. There's a loud snort from the Knight Commander. How on earth are you going to manage that? I'm friends with an assassin who sneaks into the castle undetected on an almost nightly basis. I think we can manage. Lucian knows. They've even helped Raiden sneak in during a dinner party so he could make off with a nice heap of jewelry. The look she sends me sends a chill down my spine. For a moment I feel like a scolded child. Allegedly. Lucian's face. Whoops. We weren't supposed to tell Olivia that, were we? I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. Good idea. Lucian moves to speak, but Olivia holds up a finger at them and shakes her head. I'll deal with you later. They scrunch their nose and roll their eyes in annoyance. Well, that got started more quickly than I anticipated. The next thing we have to decide is when we're going to look for the weapon. The three of them look at me and I can feel my hands start to fidget again. Well, a shudder runs through me as I think about my encounter with Nazir last night. Clearly this is something that's time sensitive. Part of me wants to say do it now, the second we get back, but that would only draw suspicion and none of us would be prepared for what's next. I shake my head and take a deep breath. It needs to be sooner rather than later, of that I'm sure. It's clear that Novus is gaining power, but Nazir wasn't foolish enough to let anything slip in terms of timing. But I think it's safe to say that once my absence is noted, they might start to work more quickly. Masha's face is contorted in concentration, but she nods along with my words. Let's give it a week, then. Give us time to plan, to prepare not just for the throne room, but what we're going to do after. A week? Sounds like too long to wait, but not enough time all at once. A mischievous glint sparks in Lucian's eyes, and they lean forward. Do you think once we move the weapon from its place, there will be a perilous course of obstacles for Raheem to pass through in order to escape? Masha is unamused. No. I think I prefer it that way, actually. Part of me knows that Raiden wouldn't. It doesn't surprise me. It's boring, but safer, I suppose. It's alright. If it's alright with you, Raheem, I think your handmaiden might prove extremely useful to us here. Obviously, Cedric will be with you, but I can make sure she stays at the castle and doesn't draw suspicion. This makes my stomach clench. I don't want to put any of my people at risk if I can help it. If you're sure she'll be safe. Maddox is quite close to Cedric as well, I've noticed. I think between the three of them we should be able to pass messages along with little risk. I nod, my fear assuaged? I'm never sure of how to pronounce that. A little. To say this whole situation is stressful is an understatement, but the plan coming together has given me an odd feeling of comfort. I'll do my best to meet with you before the day as well, to make sure we're on the same page. Maybe in 5 days at the Crown? Won't that be too public? Masha waves me off with a wink. I'll take care of that, don't worry. Alright, then in 5 days it is. A strange feeling of finality settles in the cabin and it grows quiet again. Let myself doze off for a little, still exhausted, taking advantage of the brief reprieve my brain gives me to recuperate from the exhaustion that's plagued me since last night. I mean, got to spend time with Rue, so that's something. I wake up as Masha gently nudges my arm. It's time for you to get out of the carriage. We're at the last stop before the capital. Take a shaky breath and gather myself before poking my head out of the door. Nobody's paying attention with the majority of the people on the other side of the caravan. I'm thankful that I had enough foresight to choose clothes that were plainer in color, a mix of tans and browns, to try and avoid drawing attention to myself. I look back into the cabin and my three companions are smiling at me. See you on the other side, Ambassador. Have fun on your little camping trip. I roll my eyes at the wink they give me. Go now, Raheem. We'll cover for you. Cedric won't be far behind. Stealing myself, I nod and straighten my shoulders. Here goes nothing. I try to be as quiet as possible as I slip between the trees. The forest in this area is thick, and I quickly lose sight of the caravan. There's a sharp stab of worry that I could get lost very easily here, but I push ahead anyway. I don't really have much of a choice. Thankfully, I don't have to walk much farther before I come up to a river, which Rue mentioned would be the place to meet Eric. I hope it's the right stretch of the river. Soon, though, Eric emerges, holding the reins of his horse as it drinks from the clear water next to us. Glad to see you made it. I gesture to myself. Even though the colors are muted, it's clear that my clothes are made for someone in the court, not a random commoner in the woods. I am clearly in my element here, good sir. Eric's laugh is loud and genuine. I may be out of my depth here, but he certainly isn't. I can tell. Gestures further into the forest with his chin while he pats his horse's neck. Rue has made a trail for us to follow back to the cabin. I squint and look in the direction he pointed to, but I see no trail. In fact, it looks pointedly untrodden. A trail? Not a physical one, but one without anything lurking and listening that might report back to the castle. Oh, that makes far more sense. I shouldn't be surprised that the Queen and King would have spies this far out from Novus. They seem to have spies everywhere. We wait for the horse to finish drinking, and Eric slips it an apple before offering his hand to me. I'm going to have to ride together, taking another horse from Honduran Oh, they missed that typo. Would have been looked too suspicious. Take his hand and put my foot into the stirrups and managed to get settled in the saddle without too much hassle for my clothes. Eric gets up smoothly in front of me, pulling a thin leather strap from his wrist with his teeth and then gathering his hair into a messy bun. Do you ever get tired of hearing about how nice your hair is? He looks back at me with a grin. Between you and me? No, not really. Probably his one vanity. I smack him playfully on the back. I knew it. You being all annoyed is just an act, isn't it? Eric taps the horse with his heels and starts us moving, the horse quickly falling into a quick trot. So sorry, I couldn't hear you there. I scoff. We're going to go fairly fast. Is that all right? The less we're out here, the better. More than fine. Eric wastes no time then. We only stop twice to stretch our legs, drink some water, and give the horse a small break. The sun sets as we travel, gold light glittering through the dense treetops. The sky has faded into soft pinks and purples by the time we arrive at Eric's cottage. Eric pushes open the door, and Rue and Raiden are there already, leaping to their feet when we walk in. You made it! They grab my hand, squeezing gently, and it instantly makes me feel a little better. Thank you for giving us a clear path home. Their smile widens, sharp teeth pressing down softly on their bottom lip. Always happy to help you, Raheem. You know that. Raiden opens his arms wide and stands in front of Eric, just grunts and pushes further into his little home. Miffed at the rejection, he turns his attention to me instead, waggling his eyebrows. I don't think so. I smell like horse. Hot. You're incorrigible. Do you know that? Raiden just shakes his head. I don't know the meaning of the word. Oh, I'm sure he does. I sink down onto a chair at a small table in the cabin. It feels weird to walk after horse riding for a few hours, and my bones thank me. As much as I'd like to rest, there are important things to be discussed with the group. I need to explain some things to you, I think. I look outside the small window. There's no sign of Cedric yet. I'll have to catch him up later, which is probably for the best. Fine is almost certainly something he's going eminently against. What else is new? So, at the ball, one of the triplets gave me a few pieces of information, some of which Raiden heard, but one piece he didn't. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the red book. Maja slipped it back into my pocket as I had left the carriage earlier. Obviously, Novus is using the Queen and King to upend the entirety of Errantes, and it's going to happen soon. But there may be a way we can stop it. Whoa, where's this "we" coming from? I snapped my jaw shut and my eyes wide in shock. I had just assumed they would help, didn't I? My cheeks turn red. Raiden snorts. I'm fucking with you. Carry on. Little shit. Eric reaches over and flicks his ear, which Raiden then clutches dramatically. You were saying? Right, so this book mentions a sword being used to thwart enemies of Errantes throughout the millennia, wielded by heroes pure of heart, destined kings and queens and all that. Eric crosses his arms, his head shaking. Sir Ewan, that's a children's tale. There's no way that holds any legitimate information. So one would think, but Callisto mentioned something just before we parted ways. There's a weapon hidden within the castle, probably in the throne room. If what Callisto said was true, that very well could be the key to stopping Novus. Alright, fine. Say the sword does exist. It's nearly impossible to get into the throne room, let alone sneak into it. It's true. I tried once. Shame to say I couldn't quite sneak myself in. There's a combination of magical and physical wars to get through. He frowns. Don't tell Layla that. So Maja and Livia told me. We hatched a plan to give us our best shot. Lucina and Maja will take care of the magical wards. Between the two of them, I'm sure they'll have no problems. Livia has one half of the key to the doors and can distract the guards for us, and she says the other piece of the key is in the Queen's bedchamber. Raiden, that's where you and I would come in. It's your chance to redeem yourself. He sits up at this, eyes twinkling. Say no more. Say more, obviously, but I'm even more in than I was previously. Anyway, once we get the key, we'll head to the throne room, grab the weapon, and come back here. Maja will meet us at the crown in 5 days to make sure nothing's changed. Eric runs a hand through his hair and gets an exasperated sigh. I still fail to see how a sword, however old, is going to help him go up against a literal god. Gets quiet at that, awkwardly so. Eric has a point. The odds are stacked against us, there's no doubt about that. But to cave in just seems incredibly bleak and sad. Faced with the end of everything, and do you go quietly into the night or do you fight it? Independence Day. I can't think of anything else, but that's the one that comes to mind. Well, Final Fantasy XIV comes to mind too, but that's a whole bunch of spoilers there. This day, humans were faced with destruction by aliens, and did they lay down and die? No, they figured out a way to fight back. Maybe, but what else are we going to do? I don't have any other ideas. I wave the hand that bears my mark. I don't control what help I get from Teleneos. It's selective, but they admitted that they alone weren't enough to stop Novus either. Rue stands, their hands fluttering in a rare show of nervousness. I wonder if they're thinking about their discussion with Lady Silverleaf. It'll work out. It has to, but only if we all work together. They tug their lips into a smile. I can talk to some I can. I know I'm unusual amongst my kind in Errantis. Despite what my sister may think, our way of life is threatened also. Nothing sounds worse than living as a tree for the next few hundred years, which is basically what would happen. And the idea of Rue being stuck in a tree that long, unable to hang out with friends, doesn't sound appealing. I think we'll need all the help we can get, so I think that's a great idea. Outside, you hear the sound of hoofs and the soft clang of armor. That must be Cedric. Redden picks up on this as well. Rue and I will get out of your hair. I'll talk to the people I trust in the guild, see if we can snag some more recruits for the cause, eh? Two of them wave goodbye and leave, with Cedric coming in soon after. Eric grumbles something about heading to bed, and I pat the seat next to me. You're about to tell me something I don't want to hear, aren't you? Oh, I love the dynamic between Cedric and the ambassador. The next few days pass by in a blur. I'm able to roam about while keeping low profile. Brian and Rue had donated clothes that help keep me incognito. Clothes don't necessarily fit well, but they do their job of helping me blend in. It's interesting to witness Eric in his daily life as well. He wakes up early and does chores around the house before he heads out to kill some monster or catch someone on the run for a bounty. Raiden has been keeping his ear to the ground to listen for anything about me or my complete absence at the castle. So far there's been nary a peep. While this is comforting in a way, I can only imagine it's to save face. Having to explain to a foreign power that the ambassador that was sent over was not missing after it had already happened once before is something I doubt the Queen and King want to deal with. Not missing or missing? I, for the most part, hang around the cabin, only going into town for food. Eric isn't terribly good at keeping his wares stocked, and I have a suspicion it's why he eats the food served at the Crown so often. Cedric has refused to leave my orbit for a moment, which is simultaneously comforting and irritating. I once left my enchanted dagger on the table as I stepped out for some morning air. Within minutes, he was pressing it back into my palm with a quick scolding. One thing I've noticed is that Cedric doesn't stop moving. He's constantly patrolling, sketching out perimeters, keeping watch over the door until late in the evening. I found him sleeping where he sat on the front steps. It took a great deal of convincing to get him to return inside. Maddox isn't even available as a distraction, but Cedric is always quick to meet up with the page to get new information and have brief moments of respite. Rue keeps me company as well. Just about every day they show up with flowers in hand. They weave them together into delicate crowns or stick them playfully in whatever clean tankard Eric has laying around. To the casual observer, they seem as chipper and optimistic as always, but now I catch glimpses of the melancholy in their warm brown eyes. Everyone is restless and anxious about what's to come. I can't blame them. There's my own sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I can't help but think what my companions' lives would be like if I hadn't been appointed ambassador. Who would have been chosen by the gods? Maybe a Vithrian knight, maybe even a nomadic traveler, maybe no one at all. Why does that sound familiar? Obviously, these are references to the other two routes. Because, just because we're not the story, it's just, they don't really encounter each other. Sorry. I'm taking off my shoes, because, a little sweaty. But yeah, I like that there's that reference to the other two routes. I wonder if there's going to be something similar in Call Me Under. Because that one, it's two completely different routes that are mutually exclusive. Which means if you pick the one route, then the other route doesn't happen. And if you pick the other route, then the first route doesn't happen. Whoops. I keep doing that. Rolled over my headphone cord. Come here. Okay, continuing on. Thinking of all the what-ifs makes my brain hurt, so I try not to dwell on that for too long. I wake up early on the 5th day. I'm supposed to meet Maj at the Crown. I know that if all is going according to plan, nothing will have really changed. Still, the nerves in my stomach refuse to settle, and I impatiently hover around the cabin so much that Cedric eventually begs me to sit. Eric comes home earlier than usual and takes the time to wipe the grime off his face and hands before heading out again to take me to our meeting spot. I'm impressed. Getting dressed for someone special? If you don't romance Maja or Eric, or both of them, that Maja and Eric still have a chance to spend time together at the ball, maybe even spend the night together. So, whatever's going on, I'm sure they have a chance to reconcile. He snorts, but pointedly doesn't answer my question. Raiden and Rue are raving off on you too much. You used to be so quiet. We both know that's a lie. I just know the right thing to say to annoy you now. How comforting. It's easy to forget the purpose of tonight's outing as we make our way through the well-worn path to the Crown with playful banter. In another life, maybe, I'm going simply to drink and enjoy the death glares from Nemesis. We push open the doors to the Crown, and I'm shocked to hear the echo of the creaky door. Didn't even realize the door was creaky, because there's always a dull roar from the occupants that can be heard a block away. Tonight, however, it's only Maja that sits at a table in the middle, her cloak swathing her in deep blue. She nods her head in acknowledgement as we approach. We give a low whistle, and Eric looks downright gobsmacked. How much did you have to pay Nemesis to let you empty out the place? Maja grins. Enough. Now sit. We have things to discuss and little time to do so. The chairs scrape as we take our seats. Please tell me the plan is still moving forward. She gives a nod, but I can tell the answer isn't so simple. It is, but preparations have been slow going, and the task may be a bit more challenging than we anticipated. My heart sinks. How so? I'm sure it won't come as a surprise when I tell you that your absence has not gone unnoticed within the castle walls. The rumor mill within the court is hard enough to contain, but somehow it's been managed. I figured they wouldn't want to explain to the public how there's yet another vacancy for the title of Mithrian ambassador. Exactly. The Queen and King have been extremely erratic as well. They no longer hold council meetings and only emerge from their wing of the castle when absolutely necessary. I wouldn't put it past them to suspect something. They've effectively pushed me and Livia out. This doesn't shock me, but it's still difficult to hear all the same. I'm curious, and you don't have to indulge me, but have you seen Nazir? For a moment, her plump lips tugged downward at the edges, and her brows knit together. Only glimpses. He doesn't leave the Queen and King's side. There's a sadness in her voice that makes my chest ache. I reach forward and cover her hand with mine. I'm sorry about him. I never got to tell you when we were north, but I can't imagine how you must be feeling about this. She turns her palm up and laces her fingers with mine, gently squeezing. Thank you. I like to say that we were closer, but that hasn't been the case for many years now. He's just further away, is all. I remain close to my siblings, but part of that is proximity, and my one sibling who moved away keeps in touch with the whole family. She's visited a few times, but she had to remind us a few times to keep her in the loop as to what's going on down here. Glance over to Eric, who just looks pained. His hand twitches like he wants to hold her other hand. Their eyes meet, and a breath whooshes from her mouth but she regains her composure quickly, at least the one I have in my grasp, and sit back. I'm assuming acquiring the other piece of the key has proven to be somewhat difficult. You assume correctly. With Livia not having full access as she should, restricts our movement somewhat. However, I've recently met with someone who may become a very useful ally. Have you been acquainted with Lady Silverleaf? A tight and weary smile spreads across my face. She has made herself known to me, yes. The last time I spoke with her was at the ball, actually. She didn't seem too impressed with the humans. I think I managed to deflect the full force of her disdain, thankfully. She was able to suss out the Fae in me fairly quickly. That sounds about right. Well, whatever you said to her may not have changed her mind, but nudged her in our direction. I shake my head. I can't take credit for that. It was all Rue. I saw her after the two of them had a rather heated conversation. She knew about my mark. I could tell that she was less than impressed about our odds, and she encouraged Rue to be careful. Rue mentioned that they would talk to other Fae. I wouldn't be surprised if they talked to their sister as well. Almost said her. There. Masha takes information in with a slow nod of her head. In any case, I think she might have relented on her stance, just a touch. Or maybe their bond with Rue is stronger than we realize. She offered to lend assistance should we require any. And given that she has a proclivity for stalking around the castle undetected, I thought she may be of some use in retrieving the key. She agreed to help us. Wow, I'm genuinely surprised. Me too. I was quite surprised by that development. That makes 2 of us. 3. Now, as for the rest of the plan, once the key is put together, the next hurdle is opening the doors. They're giant and loud. It will be hard to do it unnoticed. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Raiden has been talking our ears off any chance he can get, and how he's developing a technique to collapse his spine like a cat in order to finish his face with the width of... what did he say again? A bread box. So he's yet to be successful, since it has something to do with the pert shape of his backside. Masha's eyes are wide with what seems to be a mix of concern and disgust. Uh-huh. You know, I'm not quite sure if he'll be needed, seeing as the only way in is a door. Raiden tried once before to break into the throne room and fails. He knows what not to do, and knows the there in case things go sideways. The Archmage looks uncomfortable, but assuaged for now. Raiden said the trick might be a case of timing and a good distraction. Can Livia still pull the guards away? She still has control over the guards, but getting them past a certain radius from the doors will be difficult. Those guards are specially trained to stay at that post for long stretches of time, and they need to stay within eyesight of them. Livia might be able to get them to focus on her, have their backs turned for a moment for you to enter, but she isn't loud enough for them to not hear the doors opening. Well, couldn't we just make a really loud noise? The idea sounds stupid as it comes out of my mouth, but I've yet to hear the suggestion. A loud noise. Yes, I understand noise magic isn't really a proper area of study, but maybe something like a simulated storm? Something to spook them, but not have it be completely unheard of. Eric and Masha look at each other. He shrugs. Bit of thunder never hurt anyone. You could also use it as a signal for them to get out if they need to. I suppose. It's a less elegant plan than I had envisioned, but I think it should work. Excellent. So if all goes well, we find the magic sword weapon and hightail it out of the castle and back to Eric's place. Right, and if this plan fails, then we just regroup and form a new plan. I sagged against the back of the chair, clinging to the small joy of not having as many setbacks as I thought we would have. Next to me, Eric huffs, his hands clenching. Sorry, do you really think this will work, Masha? Say Rahim is able to retrieve the sword. We're going to rely on a relic from an old children's tale to help us against, and I can't believe I'm uttering these words aloud, an actual god and his royal minions. Masha's gaze is fierce as she looks at Eric. I won't lie and say I have complete confidence in this, but I trust Rahim. I know you do too. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. And quite frankly, we don't really have much else to go on, so if the shot in the dark is a sword from a children's story, so be it. Eric's brows are near his hairline, but he nods. Very well then. I cast him a suspicious glance. You believe it then, just like that? No. The concept still sounds incredulous, but that doesn't matter. Not where you two and your determination is concerned. Aw, thanks. I swear I see Masha blush at this, and she suddenly finds the table incredibly interesting. Thank you. Oh, I do have a message from the triplets. She reaches into her cloak and pulls out a tarot card. An involuntary rush of dread fills me as I take it in hand. On the card is a woman holding 2 pitchers of water beside a lake. The star. At the top of the card, in an elegant script, is one word: hope. Appreciate Callisto making sure I understood the meaning. There's a knock on the door, and I assume it's Nemesis, telling us our time is up. Majda sighs as she stands. I need to leave now, but I'll be waiting for you 2 evenings from now. Come to the castle with Raiden as the clock tower strikes midnight. I can almost hear Raiden giving a comment on that being the witching hour, and asking if we get pointy hats in order to be on theme. The mere thought of it sends my eyes rolling. Won't keep you then, Masha. I'll be there. Thank you for everything. I'm not sure I'll be able to ever pay you back for all the help you've given me. She waves me off with a smile. Eric and I both stand to leave, and as I make my way to the door, I notice he doesn't follow. Raheem, I would like to speak to Masha for a moment. Alone, please? I smile and nod my head before giving them their privacy. As I step out of the tavern, I swear I can see him reaching for her hand. And if I notice his flushed cheeks and lips when he meets me outside, I don't say anything. That's so sweet that they take that moment to just connect. Just a little bit of time with each other. I find it very hard to sleep the night before our mission, as Raiden likes to call it. There's so much at stake that whenever I close my eyes, all I can see is the various ways it can go wrong. This leaves very little space for relaxing or sleep. Just as the moon is about to reach its peak in the sky, Raiden meets me at the cabin, a small pile of clothes in his hand. Today is your lucky day. I fished the finest, least stained clothes out of Lost and Found in the guild. He smiles as he hands them to me. The fabric is thin and dark, good for seeking out castles. A deep frown crosses my face. People weren't murdered in these, were they? He shrugs. Probably. I grimace. I shouldn't have asked. No, you really shouldn't have. Nope. He also gives me light wrist braces, a thin leather chest plate similar to his own. He gives a dramatic sniff as he takes in my fully assembled form. My little ambassador has grown up to be a bona fide assassin. Your father and I are so proud. Eric whips his head around so fast I'm surprised his neck didn't snap. I'm not your father. I'm also not killing anybody. Semantics. He jerks his thumb out toward the window. Time's a-wasting, you know. We have a fancy sword to steal and limited hours of moonlight. I nod, trying to calm my shaking hands as I brush a stray hair out of my face. Eric notices and gives me a good once-over. You alright? Honestly, between you and me, not really. This earns me a laugh, which is a good consolation prize. He turns and produces a small dagger in a sheath. Here, I don't want you going in completely unarmed. Gingerly, I take it from... and I strap the sheath around my waist. Thank you. Here goes nothing, I guess. There really is no time to waste now. Raiden and I take our leave and hurry towards the castle, slipping through the forest and town with ease, our footsteps quiet. I follow Raiden as he picks a thick vine to climb, and as we near the top, I recognize the edge of a window. My old window. Raiden crouching in my window is like deja vu. He looks exactly like he did the first night that now feels so long ago. I take his proffered hand and step through the window. The room has been cleared out, a smart choice for our point of entry. What's there to guard if I'm not staying in this room anymore? I never took you for the sentimental type. Ah, but who doesn't love a good full circle moment? Our banter is shortened by our time constraint, and we resume our silence and headed out into the corridor. The throne room is located at the lowest level of the castle. Pathways and corridors narrow the closer you get to it. My former room is a couple levels above it, so we begin our descent. As we approach the corner near the final set of stairs, Raiden puts his arm out, stopping me. His brow is pinched as he listens for a moment, then relaxes. Meeting us just around the corner are Maja and Lucian. The look of relief on her face is clear, but both look tired. A strange thing, something weariness in the demon's face. You made it, and right on time, too. Assassins are nothing if not punctual. Finger guns. He gives a little stabby motion to accentuate the pun. Only Lucian chuckles at it. Of course. You'll find that the magical wards have been taken care of, but they'll need to be put back before too long. Normally that would be our Archmage's job, but I wouldn't be so foolish to assume there aren't others monitoring it as well. Such as Nazir? Lugia has already gone down before you to give you time to slip past the guards. We'll be supplying the bigger distraction up here. Loud bursts of thunder, only able to be heard on the level. Isn't that fascinating? Naturally, because I don't want anyone investigating a big crash of thunder. I'm impressed. Is there anything you can't? Her nose crinkles for a moment. I've never quite gotten the hang of Pinochle. Now go. Really. The blatant honesty of the answer makes me laugh as we make the trek downward. It isn't long before I hear Livia, her stern commander voice in full effect. I'm here to do a routine inspection of the area. There hasn't been one in some time, and I need you to accompany me to potential weak spots that may be vulnerable. There's a quiet murmuring from the guards, their voices fading just a little. We push forward, and I can see the corner of Livia's cape. She's faced down a parallel hallway, stationed so that the doors are within her eyesight. Helping thieves while maintaining protocol. I would expect nothing less from her. Of course. She grants us a quick glance and gives us an almost indiscernible nod. We turn left down yet another hallway, and we finally see it. I'm somehow still amazed at the grandeur of the doors, even though they've become part of my daily life. Their size and intricacy are distracting, and I find new details every time I look at them. I reach up to place my hand on it, and it's cold to my touch. And then it hits me. Raiden, the key. We don't have the key. He stares at me for a moment, clearly processing what I just said, and when it hits, his eyes widen. That's not good. Wasn't Livia supposed to have one of them? She was, but the second half is the one we really cut off by a smooth, melodic voice. Any guesses as to who it is? Drum roll. Do. Ambassador. Her sudden materialization makes us jump, and I stifle the squeal that tries to escape. Raiden, on the other hand. Fuck! I clamp a hand over his mouth. He managed to keep the volume low, but right now there is no such thing as too quiet. Eleanor arches a perfect brow, any motion hidden behind a well-trained mask. Her dainty hand hold up, and with a fully formed key attached to it, and she gently drops it into the hand I hold out. Thank you, my lady. Your aid is invaluable to us. She inclines her head, watching my face. It's impossible to get a read on her, but when the corner of her mouth sticks upward, I decide to take it as a positive sign. I will admit that when Rue came to me, I was disappointed they hadn't come to their senses, but I do admire their determination, and their faith in you has impressed me more than I care to admit. There is fey blood in your veins, Ambassador. I'm sure you know well that my people are selective with whom they share themselves. Oh, yes. I've decided to cast my lot with you. The outcome makes no difference to me, but it does for the one being in this world I care for most. Aww. Because Rue matters to them. We matter to Rue. She's helping us. I like that. I like that she still has that same attitude towards humans, but because Rue cares for us, she's like, fine. Around us, a low rumble fills the air. Good luck. In the blink of an eye, she's gone, and I feel something wet and slimy on my palm. Yug! I snatch my hand away from his mouth and wipe it on my trousers, and he waggles his brows. That's disgusting. At least buy me some potatoes at the Crown first. Raiden's face turns deadly serious, his dark brows pinched in the middle. Raheem, this really isn't the time to flirt with me. We can continue your love confession after there's no threat to our lives. I can tell he's waiting for me to break, to give some sort of reaction, but I don't dignify him with a response, and turn my attention back to the door. The key looks deceptively simple. It's old, a little rusted, and certainly doesn't match the grandeur of the thing it unlocks. Finding the lock on the door is another tricky feat. I assumed it would be in the middle, at eye level, but that's not the case. Raiden and I look at each of the doors, and it's with a small aha that Raiden pushes in a small square. There's a click, and it opens to reveal a keyhole. I'll let you do the honors. I push the key in. My breath is caught in my throat, and for a moment I panic. What if this doesn't work? If it's not the right key? The rumbling overhead starts again and gets louder. I have to move quickly if we're going to take advantage of Masha's distraction. Gently I turn the key and I'm afraid to look, but I feel the lock give way. Just as a loud clank starts to echo, there's a booming roll of thunder. Raiden pulls open the door and it groans in protest, but we slip inside, closing it gently behind us as the thunder fades once more. In the silence, I realize that we're both panting. We did it! As we push into the depths of the room, turn and see the look on Raiden's face is one of pure awe. What is that could possibly... I turn my head and gasp. Looking back on it, I'm not sure what exactly I expected to find. Money, probably with the occasional sword, but this is something different altogether. Oh my. Glittering gold necklaces and crowns fitted with the largest diamonds and jewels stand in one section, and another is a dragon sword worth of gold. Much of the space is filled to the brim with valuables. Raiden's fingers wriggle at his sides, and I can't blame him for wanting to do some pilfering, but we need to focus. Pulling behind me as I there are quite a few weapons scattered about. An axe, a metal whip with a spiked ball at the end of it, a pile of coins, a spot of bejeweled and rush towards it. Do you think that's it? I reach up and curl my fingers around the hilt and pull, coins cascading down with it. It's a long, tapered sword, lightweight and beautiful. I shake my head. No, there's not a scratch on it. We're looking for something that's been used for several generations. I toss it back into the pile and pointedly ignore the little yelp Raiden makes at my irreverence. We spend the next few minutes searching in different directions, trying to cover as much ground as possible. The seconds tick by, and with each passing moment, I start to worry a little more. Surely it's here, buried under one pile of gold or another. I try to keep my ears open for Masha's signal, just in case we need to drop everything and leave. Raiden sighs on the other side of the room. Found anything? I found plenty of things, but none that we're looking for. When I get to the back wall, I slump against it. Time is running out, and there's so much in here. I feel as though we'll never find what we need. I turn my head to look at a portrait on the wall next to me, strangely low to the ground, the edge of the frame almost bumping into a sword. A regular silver sword. My breath is shaky as I lean forward and inspect it. The craftsmanship is simple, but clearly high quality. The shine of the sword is somewhat dulled, and if I look at the blade, there are scuff marks here and there. It's been cared for, but it's clear that the sword has been used for a long time. I reach my hand out, pausing just before I get to the hilt. Please, please let this be it. My fingers wrap around the cool metal, only to be met with white-hot pain as the next moment. The insignia on my hand is glowing brightly as I hold the sword, and I hiss at the pain. Rahim, are you all right? Oh, shit! Raiden hurries over to me and holds my arm up with his hand. Can't believe you found it. Are you okay? I nod. The pain is already starting to fade, the glow on my hand ebbing. I'll be fine. Let's get out of here, quick. He guides me back to the doors, and we quiet as we try to hear anything on the other side. Faintly, I can hear Olivia continuing to give instructions to the guards. We hear one of them yell as thunder booms once more. It's time to leave. Raiden nods to me and we push the door open. It swings closed quickly and I let Raiden handle the lock. My hands are still shaking from holding the sword in my hand. We retrace our steps. Olivia is still situated at the conjunction of the hallway, and as we pass by, Raiden ghosts his hand over her shoulder, hanging the key off one of the ridges in her armor. Olivia only raises her head, not risking another glance at us, and we start our ascent up the stairs. Masha and Lucian usher us away from the area when we emerge, back to my old chambers. She eyes the sword in my hand. Is that it? It has to be. My mark glowed when I grabbed hold of it. Lucian comes towards me, a long strip of cloth in their hands. Here, turn around. They gently take the sword from me and press it against my back. Masha and Lucian work in tandem to wrap the cloth around it so it remains in place, freeing up my hands. You really think of everything. Thank you. Raiden has already thrown himself over the ledge and beckons me with a hand. Masha gently pushes me towards the window. It's nothing. Try not to linger here. If I've timed the patrol correctly, you should be able to leave the way you came in. The two of them don't give me time for goodbyes or more thank yous. They swiftly leave the room, closing the door behind them. take a deep breath and hike my leg over the begin my climb down the wall of ivy. It amazes me how quickly Raiden finds his way to the bottom, and he watches me climb with narrowed eyes. When I jump the last few feet down, he hums thoughtfully. Everyone could use some finessing, but by and large, I think you'd make a wonderful recruit. Who knows? Maybe I'll retire from diplomacy and join the guild. Murdering the right people is its own form of diplomacy, if you think about it. Raiden snickers, but the sound of a patrol guard silences us, and we rush away before we get caught. We don't slow down until we reach the edge of the clearing by Eric's cabin, where he leans against a tree. I can feel the nerves roll off of him, but when he catches sight of us, I watch his body release the tension it was carrying. You made it. We did. And guess what? He spins me around so that the sword is facing Eric. Our dear ambassador found the sword. Over my shoulder, I could see his eyes go wide. How do you know? I wiggle my hand. The mark never lies, good sir. He responds with a contemplative grunt. I can see his hands twitching in an effort to not touch it, and he trudges forward ahead of me. Raiden bumps into me with his hip. This is where I take my leave, little protege of mine. I'll see you in the morning. The white of his hair quickly disappears amongst the trees. It isn't until I'm inside the cabin and the adrenaline wears off and the mental and physical exhaustion rushes back into me. Cedric immediately begins fussing over me, muttering under his breath about how ludicrous it was to do such a mission. I don't have the energy to try and stop him, and soon all I see is black. When I wake up, the colors of the sky are bright splashes of orange and red, and for a moment I'm impressed with my biological clock. Then I notice that the sunlight is streaming in from the west. It would seem I slept through the whole day. Somebody must have heard me rustle awake, because Rude pops their head in from the door of my small room. You're awake! I run a hand over my face. My throat is hoarse and my head is groggy. I'm awake. Please tell me I didn't sleep for multiple days. No, just the majority of the day. You still look tired, though. I feel tired. The sweet face contorts in concern. Go back to sleep, then. You need it. It sounds deliciously tempting, but I can't. The following days pass by in a blur. There's a restlessness amongst us. Raiden goes back and forth between the guilds, seemingly incessantly. Rue even becomes somewhat frazzled, scaring easily and leaving a small trail of flowers behind them when they pace around the perimeter of Eric's cabin. Cedric serves as that go-between, keeping us informed on Maja, Livia, and Lucian. The only real news is the continued exclusivity of the Queen and King. It's hard to wait for a sign when you don't know what to look for. Thankfully, though, the restlessness has incited productivity in getting ready. Raiden has assured the assistance of the guild. Maja has been busy with protection talismans and potions. We each take a sparkly purple bed for orders. I also haven't missed the occasional sight of new faces appearing nearby, who spends more time in the forest. One morning I step out of the cabin to find Eric polishing his sword. He's focused, taking great care with each swipe of the cloth. Raiden helps me gather some physical protection for myself. He fits me with stronger leathers, sharper daggers, and working with me on a small set of defensive moves and aggressive strikes, in case I need them. He assured me I wouldn't, but I could see that he was just saying that for my benefit. I find myself keeping Cedric's dagger at my side constantly. We all continue. We go on. And then we see it. It's an unassuming day, if not notably pleasant. There's a breeze, cool and refreshing. The sun peeks through fluffy clouds in a blue sky. It stretches on, an uninterrupted pattern until I look up at the castle. I blink a couple of times. Surely that gray dot above the tallest spire is things, or a stray with and then it grows bigger and bigger. It becomes an angry swirl, darkening around the castle, and soon it spreads over the rest of Novus. The air noticeably I can hear the heavy thud of Eric's footsteps across the cabin, the sky next to me. Bristles, and I don't miss I'm up. I nod. My throat feels dry when I speak. Quickly get ready, strapping on armor and taking what will likely be the last quiet moments we'll have for a while. strapped the sword to my back, the cool metal sending a shiver down. The roof finds us, bringing with them crackling energy. I look towards the forest. Nice. Planets were right to meet us. The air smells like ozone and metal. With an assertive nod, Eric sets towards the castle, and I 1/4 quiet then. Eric looks nothing changed, but for him, I can imagine this. Around the castle, has boarded themselves in their homes, or seems to seat. Lucy come around the outer walls, genuine concern at the nobles and locking them in the east wing. I felt that it was the right time to take my leave. My stomach clenches. Whatever you are planning, it can't be good. I start to ask where the Archmage and Knight Commander are, but Eric is one step ahead of me. What about Maja and Livia? His voice waved. Very noticeable, but it's there. He still betrays a sense of calm. It's clear that foremost in his mind. For now, Livia gave herself the very important job of keeping an Archmage. Our things hated Adora to give them time to sequester themselves in Maja's quarters. Everyone relaxes. Trying to prepare ourselves as best we can. There's a lot of moving variables. We're particularly unlucky. And started having fun without me. And here Raiden and anyway. And Adri with his faces as inscrutable as small acknowledgement. And you managed to coalesce ambassador, assassin, fae, a demon, and an Raiden heat. In another life, maybe. Waiting, and I really to me for instance. My skin prickles at the responsibility. I need to figure out how to get in. To use your expertise on this one. Or I or he. I guess you're. That doesn't make sense. Not to worry, Raheem. Lucy. It's supposed to be he gets his chin to Lucian. Raheem, Lucian and I have hatched an excellent little plan. I think you'll. I'm afraid we'd all have to climb ivy up the side of the castle. The last few days. Two servants in the kitchen, the queen's handmaiden, and of course. There are servant tunnels that lead just about everywhere, and now they're deserted, which means not much surveillance. There are some at certain exit points, but I'll be taking care of those. Distractions are my favorite. Of course. Their sharp teeth shine as they grin, and Lucian wiggles their fingers excitedly. I turn to Eric now. We spent a decent amount of time trying to plot our various plans, trying to account for any obstacles that we could. I trust him far more than I trust myself in terms of plotting an infiltration. The floor is yours. Clenches his jaw for a moment and nods, stepping towards the center of the circle our group has formed. Right. Obviously we can't travel as such a large unit. We need to split up and secure the castle in as many areas as we can. Ensuring the safety of Raheem is the priority. Splitting up into small, mixed groups of 2 or 3 will be the most efficient ways to spread through the castle. Throughout the castle. Lucian, where are the Queen and King now? The chapel. The doors are shut and nobody is allowed in or out. It's heavily guarded, with Nazir last seen stationed in front of the doors. The thought of facing Nazir again makes my heart race. He's powerful and cunning, and one of the larger threats we'll face. Eric doesn't miss a beat. Then I'll go with Raheem, and I would like Raiden and the Viper to accompany us. Adri laughs. My reputation precedes me. Please, Adri, will do, sir. Raiden is grinning and nearly vibrating with excitement at the prospect of working alongside Adri directly. It was mentioned before that, Adri is basically a parent to Raiden, and has basically raised him. which explains how he is such a good assassin. And he said several times he doesn't miss, and it's true. So it'd be like Livia fighting alongside Eric. That's probably similar. Only the best and most capable for your entourage, Raheem. Layla can head for Maja and Livia and bring them to the chapel to meet us. Rue will set up with some of their friends outside of it for extra protection. I have a feeling we'll need it. Whatever Adora and Thaddeus are doing needs to be stopped. Unfortunately, we'll have to figure out what and how when we get there. They've got a god on their side, a powerful one that will stop at nothing to get what they want. So we'll have to give it everything we've got. Spare lives where you can, but be prepared for a fight. Adora has the ability to peer into minds, to speak to you telepathically. It's terrifying, but don't listen if you can. Thaddeus is able to manipulate feelings and emotions. They're equally dangerous, so be on your guard. My palms start sweating. Good luck, everyone. With that, everyone disperses to their designated posts. I see Cedric watching me. He's been staying in my orbit without fail. When he approaches, he has an odd look on his face. What is it? Chuckles and shakes his head. Nothing, just... I can see why you're picked to be an ambassador, that's all. This gestures around us, his eyes floating from one group closer enough to the next. Comes naturally, it seems. Leadership suits you. I give an undignified snort. I'm no warrior. You don't have to be. Care about the people here right now. That matters more than anything. That's what makes a good leader, is you care about the people under your command. Cedric's words hang heavy in the air between us. I'm not used to such unguarded sincerity from him like this. Words of caution or teasing barbs, yes, but my instinct is to deflect with a witty retort, but given our potential impending doom, it doesn't feel appropriate. Yeah. He's everything. I don't think I could have made it this far without you. I know you wouldn't have. He winks and gives me a little bow. I'll see you once the dust settles, yeah? I nod and he starts to turn, pausing just a moment. If I find any treasure, am I allowed to keep it? Cedric! That's not a solid no. Before I can respond, he hurries away with one final smirk. The pang of worry I feel in my chest does nothing to help, and I release a shaky breath. All this time I've been in Novus has built up to this moment, and it is quite a bit more terrifying than I had anticipated. Yeah. I turn around and Eric, Adrian, and Raiden are waiting for me. It's time. We begin our journey into the castle and Raiden knocks me with his shoulder. Nice speech back there, boss. I feel galvanized, inspired, ready to fight a god, even. Raiden? Eric and Adrian both lightly scold Raiden, who simply beams. This may be the most backward form of family bonding I've ever seen, but I let him have it. The walk through the castle was mostly quiet. Eric and Raiden stay close to me, with Eric leading the way. I try not to think too much about what's going to meet us at the chapel. That place has always filled me with such unease, and I have a sickening feeling in the pit of my stomach about why. Breathe, Raheem. You'll be of no use to us if you pass out from lack of air. Raiden makes me chuckle despite myself. Satisfied, he smirks, falls back into a comfortable silence, keeping pace with me as we walk. The closer we get, the heavier the sword feels, strapped to my back. Those ahead of us split off into different hallways, and soon we're the only ones left. We stop before a set of stairs, ones that lead into the garden just outside the chapel. All at once my body freezes, and the breath in my chest feels trapped. Eric looks at me, and I don't see an ounce of nervousness in him. He looks stalwart, calm, and steady. I'm sure he must feel worried for Maja and Livia, and for his friends, but he's clearly practiced the art of hiding that away. Take as deep a breath as I can, and I give a curt nod, and begin my ascent up the stairs. I'm hoping that Layla made it to Maja and Livia in time. Every part of my being is on alert, screaming at me to stop and go back, but I know there's no turning back now. Too much depends on this moment. I push through the top, with my eyes squinting to adjust as we come from the dark underbelly of the castle. We emerge into a little alcove hidden away in the back corner of the gardens. It's eerily quiet. Usually there's some consistent background noise as servants, guards, and nobility wander about, doing their daily tasks and gossiping in between. The air around us feels colder without the noise, somehow. There's a strange comfort to it knowing that something hasn't gone horribly awry. At least, not yet. Years of practice have given my companions the talent of staying terrifyingly quiet. Comparatively, I sound like a wounded elephant, but I tell myself that it's all in my head. I'm definitely breathing completely normally. If breathing shoots me an amused glance, I pretend I do not see it. Across the courtyard, I hear the now familiar sound of Livia's armor, and I hold my breath until she comes into view, Maja trailing close behind. They look somber but unaffected. Livia quickly finds us and gives us a small nod. They'll wait for a signal before proceeding. I don't have to look at Eric to feel the shift in his energy. His eyes don't leave Livia and Maja, but he says nothing, only straightening his shoulders a bit more. There's a faint sound of drumming, a low thrum that I mistook for my heartbeat, but now realize is coming from the chapel. It's a deep, dark sound that sets my teeth on edge. If ever there was a need for the word ominous, it's now. I placed my hand gently on Eric's back, silently telling him I was ready, and slowly we walked towards the chapel. As if tethered by an invisible string, Livia echoes him, her movements perfectly in sync with Eric's. In a different world, I would be fascinated to watch the two of them work together, but for now, I must focus. Livia walks just ahead of us, with Masha falling in line. There are 2 guards stationed at the entrance of the chapel. These are fully fledged knights, I can tell. They're free from the nerves inherent in a new recruit, and they regard Livia with mistrust that's nearly palpable. I need access to their majesties. It's urgent business. Apologies, I'm not to let anybody in or out. Well, your commander is telling you to let her in. Orders are from the queen herself. Correct me if I'm wrong, but last I heard, she outranks you. See Livia's shoulders stiffen, but before I can blink, Eric moves out ahead of me. He's swift but quiet, clearly surprising the guards as he approaches. I think it's in your best interest if you listen to your commander. There's a slick metallic sound as Eric unsheathes his sword. The guards don't hesitate, drawing their own weapons, and I can see the conflict on Livia's face. These are her men, the ones she's sworn to lead and look after. I never really thought of the emotional cost of having to fight them. Eric is quick to send the guard he was fighting to the ground, knocked out cold with the pommel of his sword. Livia follows suit and stands over the man, seemingly at a loss of what to do next. The assassins spring into action then, pushing us towards the doors. One puts a hand on Livia's shoulder, which surprisingly isn't shrugged off. Livia nods, grateful to be at least somewhat separated from that moral conundrum. I step closer to the chapel until I'm at the doors. I put my hands on the cool stone, my fingers trembling. The sword on my back seems to buzz as if it's alive. With a deep breath, I push the door open. To be very honest, I'm not quite sure what I expected. This looks familiar. Is the ambassador and nomad also see a dark future, but it's different from this. There are so many pieces to this puzzle swirling around. The queen and king, Novus, Nazir, whatever they're planning could culminate in so many different possibilities. Part of me assumed I would open the door and find swirling black smoke over a bubbling cauldron or something far more nefarious and bloody. Instead, what I find is infinitely more disturbing. This is in the crossroads. Everything is bathed in a sickly green glow, the ruins of a long-forgotten castle serving as a backdrop to where Adora and Thaddeus are perched in front of an altar waiting for us. The 2 of them had their eyes on me, and none of them looked surprised, which I didn't plan on being the worst reaction from them. Bottom of my stomach. Well, well, if it isn't our prodigal ambassador. Her words are as cold as ice. I steel myself for the sensation of her voice invading my mind, but find that she doesn't make any attempt. They've done away with most of the inhabitants of the castle, and now she's able to speak freely. I watch her gaze put to the sword strapped to my back. So, you managed to find that old piece of metal after all. I'm mildly impressed. Her face turns cold, her mouth contorting into a sneer. Now hand it over. Instinctively, I take a step back, my shoulders nudging against Livia and Eric, who flanked me. That's probably the last thing I'm going to do, especially without any explanation. Thaddeus clears his throat, a warm smile on his face. Darling, it won't do any good to make demands like this. The ambassador has been a valuable asset to us since there does no good to burn bridges now. That, huh? Good cop and but you're witnessing this oppressive history. For so long we've been preparing for this moment to usher in the return of Novus, and so a new dawn will rise over our kingdom. He points to the sword. What you master is Novus well to our success. Give it to us willingly. Beside me is a sharp exhale, and I look at Nazir, who curls his fingers around the point of his weapon. In a larger game, the look on Adora's face sours, contorting quickly into rage. Larger game? You're a greater fool than we initially thought. We control the board, Ambassador. She spits my title out with venom in her voice. I can feel my chest begin to tighten and the hairs on the back of my neck stand. Thaddeus maintains a neutral expression, but it's clear that he's trying to manipulate my emotions, to make me anxious and second-guess myself. I can see Livia in my peripheral vision squaring her shoulders. Eric glances. Quite honestly, I'm not sure how I'm not shaking so hard my bones rattle. Having the people I care for with me gives me the strength to remain steady. Going down this path will only lead to your ruin and that of your subjects. You say you control the board. How will you explain that to Novus? Didn't they grant you your powers? Novus would never be so generous without ulterior motives. Blasphemy! Refuse this and you throw away not only power, but your life. I lift my chin, jaw set. So be it. Thaddeus frowns, and for a brief moment I can feel a genuine wave of disappointment. It saddens me that you are light. Rahim. Nazir, you know what to do. With a curt nod, Nazir stalks towards us, drawing his weapon. I feel my heart freeze. I know where my hidden daggers are, and I have a sword strapped to my back, but I can't bring myself to make the motions to grab any of them. Instinctively, Eric begins to move, but I see a swirl of green push ahead of us. I'll handle this. I've heard many things about your skills, Spy Master. Let's see if you're as good as the whispers say. This is amazing. Yes. When I first played this, and I'm like, seeing Adri in action is a sight to behold, never staying still for longer than a brief moment. I hear the biting metallic sounds of blades clashing together. With Nazir distracted for the moment, Livia and Eric push forward towards the Queen and King. I follow behind them, pausing as I hear the rumble of armor outside and the cries of guards as they see our allies posted outside the chapel. I can't help but worry for Cedric, even though I know he can hold his own. Adora and Thaddeus watch us close in with amused looks on their faces. That's concerning. Our weapons are lowered, but they seem at ease. Surely they have weapons on them as well, but they make no move to reach for them. Adora focuses on Eric now. What a people you surrounded yourself with, Ambassador Kadir, even planning together a little family reunion. How quaint. I'm sure you've missed your archmage, too, since we exiled you. Eric snarls and Livia's brow furrows, her hand gripping her sword tighter. Your destruction of Novus ends now, Adora. The Queen raises a brow. I'll admit, I never anticipated you returning from that village we sent you to alive, Nistrum, but since you're far more of a nuisance than we anticipated. Livia's eyes widen, shock coloring her features, and on Eric's face is pure rage. You what? Adora rolls her eyes, tone cold and mocking. The fact that we fooled you wasn't something we were counting on, but it was seamless, everyone believing the beloved Knight Commander of insanity. We needed you out of the way and accomplished that. Is that so hard to understand, Livia? tears prick at the corners of her eyes, her nose turning red. You're despicable. I can't believe I swore my life to you. Spare me the theatrics. What we've set into motion can't be stopped. Novus is returning. The only thing to do now is to decide what side of history you'll be on. She gestures to the altar where runes give off an undulating glow. Dora steps to it, raising her arms. Thaddeus behind her. Behind us, Nazir and Andrew dance around each other, neither one quite able to get the upper hand. Novus, return to your rightful place in Novus. Transform our gray and dreary world with your power, and bring a new age. Suddenly, a thunderous boom fills the chapel, and the altar cracks. Ground shakes beneath our feet, and the world goes black for a moment. A stifling, suffocating air. The brand on my hand burns, and I cry out, clutch it to my face. This is bad. Very, very bad. Is that always how it works? It seems to be fun. And in veins. It's so cool. I love this design. The art is amazing. 4 faces, all the little hands and the little wings. So cool. It's all and terrifying, the cloying sense of doom filling my chest and making my breath come in short spurts. The chapel is gone. Instead, we're strewn about ruins beneath the sickly sky. Too late? The god takes a moment to bask in their new form, hands running over their arms, their chests. They turn their head as they still, including Adri and Nazir. The queen and king fall to their knees before the god. Thank you, my loyal Wrong voice. Thank you, my loyal pets, for doing what so many before you failed to do. My strength grows by the moment. They look at me now. Ah, the little Vithrian, the unassuming pawn, has become quite important, it seems. Delivered that sword so beautifully for me. Novus steps towards me and I stumble back. It's near impossible to think of anything but the pain, but I have to push through. I choke out the only words my mouth will form. Fuck you. Novus laughs, a sick noise that sounds like bones rattling together. What a bold little thing you are. They draw nearer to me and my mark surges with pain again, and I sink to the floor. Novus grins, a sickly thing, and stalks nearer. I close my eyes and feel a shadow cover me, and the fear that grips my body makes my throat close up. This is it, isn't it? The end. I hear the steps get closer, and I take a shuddering breath in, bracing myself for what comes next. Don't touch him. My eyes fly open and I look up to see Eric between me and Novus. There's a quick beat of silence before the god's face contorts in rage. You! The god lunges towards us. Eric throws his weight into me, out of the light of fire, and rolls away just before Novus reaches him. Nazir tries to go after him, but Adri intercedes, and their dance begins anew. Livia and Maja run towards Eric, helping him up. There's a whirl of blue as Maja hurriedly mumbles an incantation, and his armor begins to glow faintly. He's not wearing any armor. I'm assuming he is, it's just they didn't bother to create a new sprite just for this. Raiden is at my side in an instant, daggers drawn, Rue on his heels. I jerk my chin towards the queen and king, and Raiden nods. Novus is focused on getting to Eric, and we use that to quickly slink over. I think the king draws his short sword, but Raiden easily deflects it and sends it flying out of his hands. Fedora makes no move to fight, her pale skin sallow as her eyes don't leave Novus. I don't hesitate, pointing my dagger at her as Raiden holds the king in place. Explain to me why you tried to have Eric killed. Why is he important here? Slowly, Adora's eyes meet my gaze. Yes! So cool. Fighting side by side. Oh, so cool. So great. I love it. I had been hoping that Livia and Eric would reconcile, and it's so good to see this, to have this. The Nistrums are an old family ambassador, as old as Orentis itself, and as integral to its history as the gods themselves. But fights in tandem with Livia, swiftly dodging the swipes from Novus' long arms. There's king's blood in that one. It makes him dangerous. I thought exiling him would be enough. Closer to her throat. But what does that have to do with bringing Novus back? She laughs, cold and mocking. Do I have to spell it out? It is important, but only in the hands of the right wielder. It gives you or I no more power than that little dagger you hold, but if held by revolution or ruin. There's a loud metallic clang as Livia is flung to the side of the chapel, her armor banging against the cold stone. She gets the air is knocked from her lungs, but she shakes her head as Errant starts to go to her. Watching him turn to face Novus again, I realize something. I've never been. Not when Teleneos found me, not when Novus propositioned me at the ball. It's Eric. It always has been. The sword buzzes on my back as the pieces fall into place. Novus needs the sword to unlock his terrible power. That's the only way the god can succeed in the destruction of Orentis. But in Eric's hands, that plan crumbles. Raiden, Rue, take care of them. Tie them up somewhere they can't cause trouble. With pleasure. The queen and king give a sharp intake of breath. Why not just kill us? Why not just kill us? Save yourself trouble. I shrug and give an empty chuckle. If this goes wrong, we'll all die, so it won't matter. I can't escape with done. Adora moves to protest, but Thaddeus puts a hand on her arm, stopping her. Very well. Go, Raheem. We've got this. I move as fast as I can around the edge of the chapel, trying to avoid the falling bits of debris shaken loose by Novus as they attempt to strike Eric down. Masha's face is screwed up in concentration as her magic catches the larger pieces, setting them down gently before they can do too much damage. She looks at me, eyes darting across my body to see if I've been hurt. I point to the sword and then to Eric, and she nods. Adria and Nazir are still locked in battle, but they're slowing down. Nazir has a cut on his cheek and Adria on their arm and their side. Raiden keeps stealing glances over to them, worry-coloring his features. They're basically his parental figure. Can't blame him. I'm almost to Eric when his sword is knocked out of his hand. His back is to the wall of the chapel, and Novus closes in, reaching their large hand down towards him. Before they can snatch him, though, there's a loud thud as a chunk of stone hits the god squarely in the chest, knocking them backwards. Masha's buying me time. I don't let myself get distracted now, sprinting towards Eric. The skin on my knees burns as I slide in next to him and unsheathe the sword. Here, take this. Eric's hands instinctively reach for the hilt before I've even said anything, but he flinches back, clearly unsure. Novus wants this. I don't want to give them the opportunity to take it. I grab his hand and wrap his fingers around the pommel. I'll explain later, but in order for us to survive this mess, you need to use it. Eric's jaw clenches, but he nods, adjusting his grip on the sword. He gets up and swings it experimentally, and even with my meager knowledge of weaponry, I can tell that it spells perfectly for him, essentially an extension of his own arm. Despite the circumstances, I see the corners of his mouth flick upwards, and his eyes shine a little brighter, like he was made for this. The rain of debris on Novus has stopped, and they whirl around, bellowing a noise that makes my ears ring. It's full of rage and desperation, like a wounded animal. Everyone freezes, clutching at their ears to protect from the sound. Masha crouches beside Livia, helping her up. On the other side, I see Nazir lying motionless on the ground, Adri panting beside him. There's silence, then another sickening noise. It's a slick, wet sound that I realize steel slicing through flesh. My head whips around, searching for the source of the noise, but my blood, I think this runs. Adri's eyes are wide, with surprise on their faces as they look down. The tip of a blade peeks through their chests, their clothes blooming red from the wound. Behind them, Nazir clutches their shoulder. His breathing is heavy, and he's bleeding from the mouth. Adri looks at Raiden, their scarred lips curl up, and they let out a breathy laugh. Then they sink to the floor in tandem with Nazir. So they're both dead. No! No! Not Adri! All at once, the world crashes back into motion. Alerted by Nova's scream, guards come pouring in, guild members and Fae hot on their heels to try and stop them. Lucian appears by Raiden's side as he kneels by Adri's body. They fend off any wayward debris or guard that comes near him, in between gently trying to get him back standing. Rue seems to materialize out of thin air. They hurry and go towards the Queen and King, stopping them as they try to slink out of the building, away from the chaos. Livia has bounced back in full force, a set look of determination on her face as she flanks Eric, downing those who try to get in his way. Eric fights his way to Nova, the sword moving fluidly in his hands. I follow behind, clutching the daggers in my hand, hard enough that my knuckles bleed white. The adrenaline in my body is holding up, and I barely register the shallow cuts I have on my hands and arms. I can only imagine the state my face is in. Thankfully, there are enough guild members and Fae to keep the bulk of the guards preoccupied, and I find a somewhat clear path skirting towards the back. Novoth makes no movement as they wait for Eric to approach. They're leering down, taunting in the way they stay still, and somehow they seem to grow in size since they first emerged. The closer we get to the god, the more the air feels like it's been sucked out of the room. It makes me feel lightheaded, and I feel my feet start to catch on themselves, but Eric doesn't seem effective. The sword helps? Eventually he turns back and looks at Livia and myself. He says nothing, only a small smile on his face. I gently touch Livia's back and see her swallow thickly, her eyes shining with tears. I know she's determined to keep from failing. We'll help him, Livia. Do this, it's him. Right. Yes. Another ear-shattering noise bursts through the chapel as Novoth careens forward. They're fast, and I almost worry that Eric won't be able to dodge the movement, but he does just in time. It's hard to tear my gaze away, the horrible uncertainty of the outcome almost too distracting. We push through and find Masha, and soon Lucian and Rue come to us, guiding Raiden. He looks to be in a daze, eyes and nose red from tears. I extend my hand out to him, and he takes it, squeezing hard. Eric continues to hold his own, but I know we need to act fast to finish this once and for all. Livia. I zap her out of her reverie and watch her blue eyes focus on me. We need Eric to succeed, but we need a plan. Her face transforms from scared and anxious and settles into something firmer, more determined. It's familiar, but not on her. I realize that it reminds me of Eric. She nods, her jaw set. Our allies seem to have the attacking guards handled well, but make sure that you keep an eye on them no matter what you're doing. The last thing we need is to be blindsided. Masha, how's your stamina holding up? Keeping that monster distracted with debris seemed to be pretty effective. Masha, despite the scuffle and dust of battle, still seems to sparkle, but there's something behind her eyes that shows exhaustion to creep in. I can see tear marks on her cheeks, and I begin to imagine how she must be feeling watching her brother fall, even if he was fighting against us. I mean, it's bad enough losing to lose them like that before you have a chance to reconcile. Even so, her voice is strong and steady when she speaks. I'm alright for now, but Novus magic grows stronger by the moment. They were beginning to push against my attacks. Hopefully, with everyone working together, they'll be too spread out to resist you further. Lucian, do you think you could help Masha? If you work together, fatigue. Lucian's face is somber and serious, an odd color on them. They nod. Of course, whatever you need. Brew, you and Raiden can serve as another distraction. You're nimble and quick and better able to avoid getting hit than I am. If you can attack Novoth at their feet, that should make them topple over. It's a simple plan in theory, but I know it's easier said than done. Brew nods eagerly, one arm around Raiden's shoulders. They softly knock their head against his. You okay to do this? Raiden squeezes my hand one last time and lets go. He sniffles, but when he looks at Livia, his eyes burn, like molten chocolate. More than ready. Whatever it takes to kill this fucker. Nobody flinches at Raiden's use of language. Once we get Novoth down, that will give Eric the opportunity to finish it. Rahim, you and I will help where we can. The more scratches we can put on this god, the better. It doesn't seem like much, but if we wear them down enough, it will help. There's a brief silence as we digest the plan. Wordlessly, the pairs begin to split off. Raiden and Rue sprint off to begin their task, and Masha and Lucian station themselves on opposite walls. Large pieces of stone and debris begin to fly through the air. Novus deflects the first two strikes fairly easily. Their strength continues to grow, the energy emitting from them becoming almost suffocating. Eric continues to fight, moving swiftly away from attacks and waiting for moments that Novus bends down to throw more vicious attacks. Suddenly there's a loud hiss, and Novus turns their head to look at their leg. Raiden has climbed up some of it, his dagger glinting as he draws it across the back of the god's knee. I wait a tense moment to see if that works, but the cut isn't deep enough to cripple them. Raiden jumps back down and begins to try the other leg, through only a flash of green and red as they try to cause the monster to tumble down. Livia and I draw closer to Eric, careful not what we can, step on the bank closer to the ground. We continue on for what simultaneously feels like mere moments and long hours. A piece of stone hits them and they lurch, their balance knocked askew. Raiden makes another attack for their legs, and this time he hits his mark. Novus screams, collapsing onto their knee. Black blood drips down, pooling onto the stone floor. Eric wastes no time, surging forward, but access to Novus' heart and neck are just out of reach for him. The mark on my hand tingles, and my body begins to move. There's a piece of stone from the floor of the chapel that's jutting out, almost like a ramp. If Eric can leap with enough force, he can make it. I run toward him, my glowing palm outstretched. Something deep inside me ignites, sending sparks throughout my body. Eric glances at me, and I point to the stone. It's only a handful of steps, and I reach him quickly, placing my hand on the back of his neck. The energy I'd been feeling begins to flow out of me, and I recognize it as Telenio's power. It's been settled within me for so long I've grown accustomed to it, and to feel it leave me makes me gasp. Eric tenses beneath me, giving a small grunt and shaking his head to right himself. When I pull my hand away, the mark begins to fade. I lean in and whisper to him, "Go. Finish this." Everything that happens next seems to occur in slow motion. Lucien and Maja use their magic to keep a large stone on Novus' back, forcing them to stay down. Brew and Ryan continue to slash at their legs, Livia focusing on the bent knee. Eric runs up the ramp, launching himself off the edge, sword angled high in the air. I can hear my heartbeat roaring in my ears as the sword plunges into the god's chest, black blood spurting out as Eric hits his target. The sword, buried in the god's gray skin, begins to glow bright. Lightning-like veins extend from the wound, quickly covering every inch of Novus, who yells in pain loud enough to make the floor tremble. Eric holds fast, keeping himself aloft by holding the sword. The glowing veins reach Novus' face. One last cry escapes them before it dies in their throat. They sway, clawing at their wound, their neck, desperate. With a loud crash, Novus collapses. Dun dun dun! Does that mean we did it? We succeeded? Well, apparently, if we're back in the chapel. Yay, na 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 na. Now what's the fallout? The world around us shifts and we're back in the chapel, the one we're all familiar with. It's dead silent for a long moment while the dust settles. Eric wrenches the sword from Novus' chest, breathing heavily and stumbling. We all watch, completely still, as Novus disintegrates into ash. Playing, the guards drop. It's over. We did it. We won. My knees give out from under me, but I don't hit the floor. Someone catches me, though I can't quite make out who. My eyes fill with tears I let fall freely. I didn't find any treasure. Cedric! What about that line? Knowing Cedric was safe makes me cry harder. A large sob in my body as I laugh despite everything. Squeak, I can hear the relief in his sigh. He helps me back onto my feet and he tries to usher me towards the chapel, but I don't follow him. What do we do about the guards? They've made no move to continue fighting. I see Livia walking away from Eric's side to address them. We will deal with you shortly. If you run, we will find you. They're filing out of the chapel. Lucien watches over Adora and Thaddeus with a wicked but the anger is clear on their faces. The assassin from earlier Raiden goes to her quietly to each other before gathering the rest of the guild members. Rue sprints over to the entrance of the chapel where Eleanor stands. She looks relieved and Ruth throws their arms around her, burying their nose into her hair. They stay like that for a long moment. Eleanor brushes Ruth's short hair back and mutters something to them that makes them grin. Masha is with Eric, using a scrap of fabric from her skirt to clean some of the blood off of Eric's face. He stops her by gently grasping her wrist and pulling her in for a kiss. I can't help but smile. Ah, that's so adorable. Ah. The tears keep my cheeks, and I wipe them away with a grimy hand. Something comforting and warm settles in my chest. It's almost foreign to me now, but I know what it is. Hope. Appealing in Novus, and to be tied. Will be affected after being betrayed by their rulers. The royal guards will need to be taken care of as well. Novus needs protectors that are loyal, an essential foundation for a better Novus. We'll need a new leader in the wake of Antry's death, a unique to itself. And what of myself? Will I return to Vithris and resume my old life, or do I stay in Novus and help rebuild what was corrupted? There's great uncertainty, to be sure, but I energy that's found only in moments of rebirth and great change. Despite not knowing what the next step is for any of us, there are some truths that hold me steady. The citizens of Novus were kept safe. The world didn't. I'm alive and may have to prove it. Even though I can no longer feel Teleneo's power, I know that they haven't abandoned the city and its people. Most importantly, the ragtag group I care about are together and alive, and whatever comes next won't be dealt with alone. We have each other, and that's enough. So, saving here. Oh, no. No, we're not going to save here. Ta-da! We finished! Everybody. In the aftermath of Novus' defeat, word of the battle and those who fought in it spread quickly throughout Errantis and its neighboring countries. A new ruler was needed to restore what had been taken from the citizens of Novus. The choice was unanimous among the members of the court to formally end the exile of Errant Kingdom and reinstate him as king of Errantis. Under his rule, alongside his queen and archmage Maja, the kingdom flourishes in a way it has not since Eric's own ascent and ancestors. Yes. They got married. Of course they did. I think the only time they don't get married are if you romance one of them. Relations with the Fae are more formally established, and the citizens of Errantis find themselves living in an era of great prosperity and peace. He also still attends the Winter Ball every year at the request of the Duchesses. Upon seeing the success with which the Fae and humans work together during the defeat of Novus, Rue works with Eric to ensure a harmonious coexistence. What humanity looks like through their eyes. The two still clash, as siblings do. To speak from experience, the sightings of the elusive Lady Eleanor are reported more and more by the citizens of Novus. She's been known to be partial towards passing sweets to children and sharing mulled wine at booths in the market. Rue becomes essential to bridging the humans and Novus, sort of friends often, as well as their beloved ambassador, who is so often seen at their side. Yay! There's always a solid spot for them at the castle. A period of rapid change, as above, so below. When one viper falls, another rises, sharper and keener with the collective knowledge of their predecessor. Whispers underground that the moniker has changed hands, though it is only confirmed in a darkness. The viper is undoubtedly feared not only for their prowess and reach, but for the fierce loyalty garnered by members of the guild. Lost and broken, bonds are forged beneath Novus without the fetters of contracts or blood debts. Given grace by the Besides, Raiden was never one for tradition anyway. This is Raiden. You can tell by the tattoo and the light hair but dark brows. It keeps her duty to the crown and people of Novus to keep stability as the world reorients on its axes. Has settled, she steps down as Knight Commander to focus on something she hadn't time for previously. Herself. Caught up in the frenzy left after Eric's exile, Olivia stepped into shoes expected of her to fill. Always known as Eric's protege, she now makes it an opportunity for herself to try something new. Unbound by titles, Olivia begins a new chapter of her life, exploring the world and herself along with it. But she isn't alone. Having met during the defeat of Novus, Olivia and the mysterious raven Layla connected instantly. Yes. I was so excited when I got to this point, because on the nomad route, Raiden hints that Layla has a crush on Olivia. So it's great to see that follows through with this. And one of the codex entries talks about Layla's past. With Layla's guild contract now complete, she has a newfound freedom that she's unsure what to do with. She's decided, though, that a beautiful woman with a sharp sword is a good place to start. I mean, sounds good to me. After demons reach a certain age, time passes and holds meaning differently than it does for mortals. Years go by like mere and the rise and fall of empires begin to bleed together. Lucian recognizes when it's time to move on, a gut feeling of sorts, a push and pull that guides their next adventure. People trapped in Novus keep a special place in their heart, enough so that there's never too much time that passes between visits. So they still get to see Lucian periodically. There's wisdom to the new and younger generations, and mystique builds around the intriguing visitor. Through the ages, a folktale emerges. A demon beautiful like the night sky has lived in Novus and befriended the mortals. They returned every so often to visit them, and when their times would come for them to return to the earth, Lucian could sometimes be found in the light of a crescent moon. In service in protecting the Vithrian ambassador and aiding the defeat of Novus, Cedric is made head of the King's Guard and serves under the banner of Novus. Yay, Cedric! And that's gotta be Maddox. Cedric leads his battalion and takes great pride in maintaining the security of the castle and those within it. Maddox is also finally given the opportunity to enlist as a proper knight, and he quickly stakes his claim as the most talented recruit since Livia's training days. Despite being busy with drills and practice and patrol, he finds time to sneak away with Cedric on quiet nights. Dora and Thaddeus sit in the dungeons beneath the castle as they watch their work become unmade by the new king and his court. When smoke clears and the emergent matters have been attended to, the disgraced rulers face their reckoning. Their betrayal of Orentis must be answered for. The judgment is given without ceremony by King Eric, and the punishment follows suit. There's no crowd. The king's sword is swift and sharp, and their final breaths end the reign of the traitor queen and king. One of betrayal and destruction, a warning to those who rule or seek power for generations to come. Now we're gonna save here. The sun glimmers off the lake like magic. The soft sounds of water lapping against the rocks has me in a daze as I bask in the soft grass. Flourishes out in nature like this, so it's where I find myself most of the time. Being close to them is like orbiting my little sun. You're staring at me again. Can you blame me? You're like a buttercup, a flower in the sun, all in one. That might be the best and worst thing you've ever said to me. Too much. Rue rests their head on my shoulder with a laugh. I'm so happy. Me too. The end. So, ambassador route. And, obviously now you have an idea of what's coming for the night route. But obviously it plays out slightly differently because, of course, different people. Thank you for joining me, and I'm sorry it's a little long, but gotta get everything in. And stream next Wednesday. Next Wednesday. We'll definitely try to re-recorded the nights for the night chapter 7 before that. Hope you all had a good time. Thank you for joining me, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please And until next time, take care. Bye!